Hey guys, Nick here again with Lime Tree Laser Co. and Haotian Lasers. I apologize, I'm not doing a intro video today. We're just doing kind of a quick one here. Mark from Haotian asked me to kind of give you guys a quick rundown on the settings for this process. What are we doing? We're doing relief engraving. So this is kind of, you've seen a lot of guys do this with metal coins, challenge coins on their fiber lasers, and they are fantastic. So essentially we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're using a UV laser. We're using feeltek head, and obviously Landmark 3DS software. Now I'm not going to lie, I didn't have much time to really dial in my settings here. This isn't something I do very often. And by that I mean I don't really ever do it, but I'm intrigued. I'm going to play it with it a bit more. The issue I find is, it's only a 5-watt laser, and it's slow. It's very slow. I think a 10, preferably even a 15. I think this would be a much more viable procedure. Like I said, didn't get much time to really dial things in. This is one I did on some basswood, but I did have issues with it being wood, which is not a homogeneous substance. So you start to see a lot of changes in the engraving based on the grain of the wood. Did try an inverted one on some glass, and again it looked okay, but I really need to spend some time dialing in these settings. So like I said, I did wood and glass. I'm going to kind of run through the settings that I used for the glass. I'm excited to see maybe some people with some higher power lasers really get into this, and really excited to see what some of the other guys can do. So let's get started. First thing we need is a model. So here is the Roman coin I bought from Etsy. Kind of a neat little model. I think it's a pretty decent layer of detail. I think it would look really neat on a metal coin. And then we kind of lose everything we're seeing once we actually highlight it, but it is what it is. So let's make sure everything is at 0 origin. Now I'll show you my settings here quick. You can see I'm using the 200 by 200 workspace, which means I have a 120 millimeter working depth, which also means we need to move the top edge of our STL up to 120 millimeters. First thing I'm going to do though, for glass, I found this Z height was a little bit much. So I'm just going to use the Z scale here and scale it by a factor of 0.5 just to kind of compress it a little bit. Bring that back down to the 0 origin, and now we're going to move it back up. You could get a calculator out for this. I find the easiest way is just to move it all the way up by 120. And then we'll move it back down by our Z height value. So we can just copy that. Negative. Paste. I'm not sure that didn't work. Maybe I didn't select relative. Let's try again. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Now, the other thing to mention is this is really bogging down the UI in Landmark 3DS. I've played with it a little bit in the 64-bit software. It was better, but still not great. So be patient. When we go to slice this, it's really gonna freeze down. So let's do that now. So we have to, as I said, we got to slice the model up and create the engraving layers is essentially what it's doing. Like I said, a lot of the fiber guys who have done coins and kind of know what that means, but for those of you that don't, it essentially just means we're slicing everything into little layers. Now these are obviously really far apart, but essentially the idea is that we're going to create a bunch of these layers all stacked on top of each other, and it's going to reference this model and give us our cutout. So that's what slicing is. The distance between these two lines is going to be our layer thickness. So for the glass I started with 0.025, and I think that worked well. Now the invert option here is kind of interesting. So if you want to do an engraving that the final product looks like this STL, you know, like a coin, then you want to make sure that an invert option is on. With the glass, I was essentially wanting to remove this model from the glass itself. So I left the invert option off, and it essentially drilled down into the glass. Invert on will engrave everything to leave this model behind. Essentially, you're going to engrave all of the material away, and what you see is what you'll be left with. So let's run through that, because I think that's going to be kind of a lot more of a common use for it. So invert is on. Again, 0.025 layer thickness, everything's going to be the same. Minimum line and polygon can stay at 0. And you can extend the invert size a bit. I think that's handy, so that if you're, you know, doing a coin, that you can go off the edge a little bit. So why don't we even do that at 0.5 millimeter? Now this is going to take some time. I think everyone who's worked with Lenmark knows this this screen. I like to call it the oh damn it's frozen screen. Not responding. But as we all know, if we hang out, it'll come back. This slicing operation it's a heavy operation, so it's gonna be slow. And you probably don't want to hear me ramble on through all of it, so I'm just going to pause this video and we'll come back when it's finished. Okay, so the slice is now all finished, and you can see our slice object there. Now we've got this slice property page here. Before we get into that though, let's set our hatch. Now the hatch option in this property page, the hatch option here is the settings for our material removal. We'll also set a cleaning pass, but for this, this is where you set your main hatch options for material removal. So we're going to start with a 45-degree angle. Glass 0.025 works well. If you want to do an auto rotate hatch, you don't set it here. We'll show you that in a second. But again, main material removal, so set your hatch there. We hit apply. Now we can go into the slice window. You can see we made 26 slices, and it's kind of fun to actually drag through here, see every layer that you made and how it's going to engrave. So you can see the black is where the laser is actually going to be running and leaving the material, the model behind. So we're going to keep that set to 0. That's the initial layer. Rotate angle per layer. So this is where your auto rotate settings can be set. So let's do 30 there. That is your apply button. And now here is where we can set our cleaning options. I kind of just left it at rectangle. When you're not using the invert options in the slice, you get a few more options there. So this will just make sure you're going all the way to the edges of your coin or whatever material you're using. As far as the cleaning settings go, we've already got a pretty good overlap on the hatch settings. That goes edge to edge, so we don't really need to do anything extra for the clean. Actually, you know what? I'll bet you the clean, maybe you do want to set a little, so maybe a 0.5 there, just to make sure your cleaning layer is also going all the way across. And your interval layer, so this is how many of the slice layers will be done before you do a clean. So we want to do a cleaning pass after every material removal pass. We'll set that to 1. And then you can set your hatch parameters. Now, when I was doing glass, I didn't really find a cleaning pass all that helpful. Same with wood. It was kind of just sort of seemed to be flattening everything. So I left the hatch distance at 1, and I just set a crazy high speed and a low power on the clean. I'll bet if you put interval layer to 0, it would probably take it right off. But again, I didn't play with that too much. You can set an auto rotate here for your cleaning pass. Big thing is make sure you set your pen number to something other than 0. So you can actually change the parameters. So we'll set that to 1. And we're almost there. So next is going to be setting our parameters. Pen 0 will be our material removal. On glass for a 5 watt, we're going to be around 200 with a 45 frequency, 95 pulse width. Again, I always use inverted pulse width, so 100 is full power for me. We'll apply that. Pen 1, which is the yellow layer, that's going to be our cleaning pass. Set it however you feel, play around with it. Again, I essentially just set it as about 4,000 with a pulse width of about 30, you know. It's not really doing much, a little bit, but very little. And that's it. We're ready to fire it. So again, like I say, I didn't play with settings all too much. I think I will eventually. For me personally, I don't think this is going to be something I do very often. Yeah, so it's all ready to go. It's ready to fire. You can frame it on the laser and let it go. Sit back and relax, because particularly for glass, doing 26 layers at a 0.025 hatch distance with a 200 marking speed, it's going to be a while. But that's essentially how it's done. So I hope you enjoy. I'm pretty excited to see what some of you folks can do with this, and I'm really excited to see the neat stuff that comes out. So that's it for me. Happy lasering. Thanks for watching. Take care.